To me, comics are an escape, a 32-page portal to another world. Whether it's the bustling streets of New York City, or the crime-infested Gotham protected by the Dark Knight and his crusade of justice, or the furthest parts of the galaxy with strange alien species and awesome spaceships. Every Wednesday, I walk into Worlds Apart, I go straight upstairs and I look through the tons of new comics that have come out that day, and I spend money that I don't have to open that portal to escape. Comics have gotten me through important times in my life. They've inspired me to do and be better in life. Although some may argue against it, superhero comics have and always will be political in nature. Whether it's Captain America sucker punching Hitler and fighting Nazis, or Lex Luthor, a narcissistic billionaire philanthropist who uses his wealth to constantly make the life of Superman, an immigrant from space who does nothing but good for humanity, absolute hell, and injures innocent people in the process. One of the most famous comics of all time is full of allegories and representation of the political climate of America during the Cold War and the fear of nuclear warfare that the country was going through at the time. That's part of the reason I love them. They're about good overcoming evil, people shaping the world for the better from threats that may arise. You can always see reflections of the real world within them. They're full of characters that feel like real people with decades of history built through them, whether it's tragedy or the slight ounce of happiness. They're not just books for children. They have real messages, real meaning. They have a sense of hope lit through the pages in the darkest moments, because you know no matter what, Superman will save the day. You know that Spider-Man will lift several tons of rubble off his back and save whoever needs it. So instead of just listening to me talk about how great comics are, here are some other people to talk about them as well.
Can you state your name for the camera, please?
My name is Ollie Morgan.
My name is Seth Bate.
Tommy Smith.
What is your first memory of comics?
My first memory was my brother taking me round to his flat and he showed me The Dark Knight, which may not be objectively the best Batman film, but it's still my favourite just because of that memory I have of it. And that got me into Batman comics, like The Court of Owls and Long Halloween, and that in turn got me into DC and other characters like Superman and the stuff that I've brought in today.
It was probably around primary school-ish, around year 5-ish. My mother used to take me to the library. Say around before school and then sometimes after. My most biggest memory was probably like reading like these really niche Simpsons comics. Then I progress on to DC, Marvel, but like around near enough that time was probably like old Simpsons stuff.
Well, I'd say with like comic book characters, I think of people my age, you can't go not knowing them. Like Spider-Man, I feel like is just instantly installed into any 3-year-old boy's mind. So I've always been aware. So I don't remember what the first comic I ever picked up was, but I remember the first comic I bought. I remember I was probably in Waterstones and I got the Infinity Gauntlet, and it was before Infinity War came out. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I get to read about what will happen next and see what things they'll adapt. So I was really interested in seeing what was based off what. And of course, the movies are never one-to-one, but I loved seeing which bits they picked and which bits they decided to make up.
Why do you feel a connection to read or collect comics? Like, what is it about them that draws you in?
Well, 9 times out of 10 the artwork is really good. The character work is also really good, especially with characters like Batman and Superman and like what they represent, especially Superman. Such a great like hopeful character that can really uplift you in like times of need and stuff like that.
I'd say the bigger picture of that is probably like the stories and the endless artwork and creativity that you actually get from these pieces of art. And seeing stuff like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man, it connects to me as a person.
I always found it interesting because it is just cool. Most of it is pretty cool. It's a Batman, but also it's silly. Batman in concept is a really silly idea, but somehow it's one of the coolest things on the planet. And it doesn't really make sense, but at the same time, you want to learn more.
And finally, why do you think that people should read or collect comics if they don't already?
I think there's something really fun about going to a comic store monthly or weekly or bi-weekly or however many times a series is coming out, and seeing the new issue on the shelf, and you can get variant covers and stuff like that. There's a real thrill to every now and again you're going to get more of the story, you're going to get another issue, and it just keeps you coming back for more. And I think it can get quite, addictive, but in a good way. Keeps you coming back for more, keeps you interested in it, and that's what can make you like a super fan.
I think that it's just it's cool, and with just the art, with certain things, it's a new way to connect with certain characters, and it's a way to see them in all different ways. Like with Batman, there are so many different versions of Batman, and you can really find one that you're going to connect with, because they're really silly ones, really serious ones, and you can really pick and choose with like the wide range that comics have.
I think people should read comics because they give you a sense of escapism, which is incredibly needed in the world we live in today. Especially stuff like Superman, because it brings that hope that we all need in these times.
Although I love comics, the writing isn't the most important part for me. To me, the most important part is the art. Now, some people may dismiss the art as basic, lacking creativity, but some of the art in comics is truly beautiful. It's not all just generic, basic, half-assed art. Now, I showed a couple of pictures there of some artists that I admire and love, but there's one that I specifically didn't show, and that's the work of Javier Rodriguez. Rodriguez is currently the artist of what I believe to be the best comic currently being made, and what I think will one day be considered one of the best of all time. Not just due to its amazing writing by Denise Camp, but due to its beautiful, vibrant, somewhat psychedelic art that helps build upon the story's exploration of humanity, emotions, empathy, and the psychology of people. The story isn't your usual superhero caped fodder. It's something different. It follows a stoic FBI agent addicted to his job, who finds himself in an explosion and therefore afterwards finds himself psychologically connected to a little green Martian. Throughout the first issue, this is represented in random bursts of bright colours that find themselves seeping into John's bland, dull, colourless life, until the final few panels, where all these senses, all this feeling become too much. As John tries to run, he finds himself in this explosion of colour in a beautiful, surreal art piece, not understanding what is happening, and it then leads to this amazing final page, something not seen in any other comics. On this final page we see John's face. He looks confused, maybe shocked, but on the page before we see a note from the writer about activating your Martian vision, an interactive part of the comic which shows more when held up to light. We see John and the Martian as one, no longer separate entities but connected as the Martian Manhunter. As I said, the comic truly is a gorgeous exploration of humanity, psychology and the mental state of people. It is a psychedelic venture through the minds of a small town. It is a comic that at points can be so confusing but refuses to explain itself, which truly lends to the story. It is something that can only be told through the medium of a comic book. Comics are one of the most important mediums of art. They have been used to extend things like games and shows for years. They are the basis for some of the biggest films in blockbuster history. And no matter what, you are bound to have interacted with comic books or comic book characters at some point in your life. It isn't a lower form of art. It's not something specifically just for children. It's an exploration of good versus evil, and sometimes, yes, it can be childish and silly, but sometimes it can be meaningful and deep. They're a community of people of all shapes and sizes, of all ages, of all backgrounds. They are inspirations and genuine pieces of art that belong in a museum.
So what are you waiting for? Go and pick up a comic for yourself. I promise you won't regret it.